With us on the phone right now is City Commissioner for Grand Rapids, Joe Jones. Is also a pastor in our community. Commissioner Jones, thank you for joining us. I imagine you've been seeing some of these images, and your first reaction.
Well, first of all, let me say this, Leon. I want to commend you and the crew at Wood TV. You guys have done a phenomenal job all evening. I've had the chance to tune in, and you all have just been just on top of it. I want to commend you for that. I had the opportunity to be downtown in Grand Rapids for the beginning of the peaceful protest, silent march that was scheduled at Rosa Parks Circle. And I think it's fair to say that there were other folks involved whose intent was to create mayhem. And they have, I think, in some ways succeeded. But that original plan that the organizers had to create a space where people could come together in solidarity and channel their anger in a way that was peaceful was disturbed, was totally, I think, torn to pieces. And what has transpired in many ways is chaos, and I see it as rather unfortunate. And I do believe that there are a number of folks who have been involved this evening. Again, I was down there for quite some time at the beginning of the silent protest. And I came back down and took the opportunity, along with the mayor, to walk the streets of downtown Grand Rapids. And we talked to folks, and we saw with our very own eyes some of the damage that was being done. And there are a number of, again, folks who were involved who I do not think were residents of our city, but individuals who perhaps were from who knows where, who felt the need to come in and just destroy our city. And yet I understand the anger. I understand the frustration. As a black man in America, I can definitely not just relate, but I can empathize and I can share in that pain. But what we've seen tonight has been reckless, and I think the individuals involved with this mayhem, again, are not indicative of the original intent that was in place for the march that was planned for 6 o'clock last evening.
Commissioner, there is certainly a segment of our population, perhaps a larger than we would care to admit, that see this and go, this is how you get the attention of, quite frankly, people like you, the city commission, the people who are elected to make a difference and help ensure that there is equality and justice for people of color in our community. This is the only way to really get your attention. Do you outright dismiss that?
No, we heard that as we walked the streets of downtown Grand Rapids, that was part of the narrative that we heard from those we came in contact with, was they felt that it was going to take something like this to get our attention, and we had to respond to them that, no, we heard you and have heard you loud and clear before this. And I think it's fair to say that we have, as a city, have taken measures and done our best to try to create a city that is more inclusive, that is more equitable, a city that recognizes the benefits of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and as a city that is working diligently to be a more welcoming city and a city that provides prosperity for more people. And so, and yet I respect the right for anyone to voice their opinion, but not in the form of damaging public property and just, again, creating mayhem and not at all considering the ways in which people can effectively communicate their position, and I think most importantly, recognizing that it is possible to disagree without being disagreeable. And I think that what we've seen this evening, it is painful. Again, I was able to see with my own two eyes, and I just want to continue to work diligently to again make our city better and make it a model city. And I believe that we have the tools to do that. But I do believe that what has happened this evening is going to require a significant road to recovery. I don't think that the city will be the same. But my hope again and my prayer would be is that somehow through this we can be better.
A number of hats. Susan and I were talking. Well, do we call him Reverend or Commissioner or the person in charge of the Urban League? You wear a lot of hats in this, but one of them, of course, is as a city commissioner and someone who's going to have to help us figure out how we pay for some of the damage that's been done and the response to this crisis at a time where you are already talking about doing cuts and slashing the budget. How concerned are you about the pressure that this adds to an already pressurized system of finances in our city?
I'm very concerned. Again, to your point, here we are in the midst of a pandemic, something that has been devastating to our local economy and to our budget. And as you know, we just passed our budget, and now we have this before us. And so I think we'll have to clearly put our heads together with and take an all hands on deck approach to determine and figure out how do we fix this? How do we make this right in terms of the damage that's been done, the infrastructure, again, the businesses that were already hemorrhaging, that are now going to be even further injured because of the events of this evening. And so I will tell you, I have the ultimate confidence in our city manager, Mark Washington, and his capacity and the team that he has pulled together with the city, as well as my colleagues on the commission. And I also want to give honor where honor is due in terms of the work that our police department has done this evening, along with the King County Sheriff's Department and the Michigan State Police, I think with Ottawa County Sheriff's Department as well, in trying to restore order in a way that also dignifies the humanity that's been present downtown. So it is, again, going to take, as I've mentioned, an all-hands-on-deck approach. And it's not just going to be those who are elected or appointed. It's going to be community as well. It's going to be the faith community. It's going to be the business community. It's going to be the nonprofit and the philanthropic community. It's going to take a lot of pieces to put this puzzle back together.
Mm-hmm. And you hear a lot of people talking about just all the pressures that have come onto us in 2020, and we're not even halfway through. We've got what will undoubtedly be an intense election where a lot of these same issues are going to be on the ballot and on the table for discussion, and some of these same frustrations are going to undoubtedly come to top of mind again. As a person of faith, how do you explain to folks why we're under such pressure right now?
I think what we're seeing is a culmination of things. And to begin with, I would speak to just what happens when you have a community that is without hope. And I think that when you look at what has transpired in our country, from the beginning of our country, over the centuries, and the lack of real opportunity and the inequities that have been in play, and the discrimination and just the absolute lack of real opportunity. Those are things that can create hopelessness. And I think that we have to do what we can, especially in the faith community, to advocate and push for the importance of restoring hope and the importance of really beginning to and committing to seeing each other as image bearers of God. And this is not something I'm coming up with. This is something that is written in the Holy Scripture. And so I lean into that heavily. I think that is something that has been missing historically is when you don't see the other or someone who perhaps has a different hue, different ethnicity, if you don't see them as being fully human, then it is one should not expect peace. One should expect conflict, because if someone is continuously treated in a way that is inequitable and if they're being treated as inferior, there comes a time, and history shows this, where the response is not that of just going along. The response is to push back. And I think what we're seeing across the country is a significant pushback for centuries of oppression and lack of real opportunity. And so, unfortunately, it has touched our beloved city, and we're seeing it play out right before our very eyes.
What do you say to someone who looks at what unfolded tonight and it causes them to outright dismiss the issues that were at the heart of the center of the protests that led up to all of this? That says, see, these people are just a bunch of thugs. What they're talking about is hogwash. What do you say to those folks?
What I would say is I would just encourage folks to again, fully understand how we got here. One of the questions I get asked on a pretty continuous basis, based on the various roles that I play in community, is people ask me, Joe, how do we fix this? Whether it's health disparities, whether it's the economic disparities, whether it's the academic outcomes that differentiate between communities of color and majority community. And our response is always, before we can talk about how to fix this, we first have to better understand how we got here. And so there's a lot to be said about how we got here as a country, how we got here as a community, as a city. And it's too easy to just kind of apply labels and say that someone's a thug because of what we're seeing this evening. Again, I am not endorsing what we've seen this evening. And again, I really do believe that what we've seen this evening is the results of individuals whose heart and whose intent was not to express themselves in a way that is constructive. But what we saw tonight was really activities of irresponsibility and individuals who, again, I don't think are necessarily from the 616, but individuals who just felt the need to take advantage of an opportunity and engage in the chaos and actually enhance the chaos.
Okay. Commissioner Joe Jones, Second Ward City Commissioner, who wears a number of hats, and I hate to say it to you, Commissioner, but we're going to need you to wear all of them plenty as we respond and deal with what has transpired tonight. Thank you for taking some time to reflect and discuss with us tonight.